New developments now as we look at Russia's war on Ukraine. It is day 77. Natural gas from Russia that moves through Ukraine to Europe is a focus again this morning. For the first time, Ukraine is shutting off a key gas pipeline. Somewhere between a third and a quarter of Russia's natural gas shipments to Western Europe move through Ukraine. The pipeline at issue crosses territory controlled now by Russian-backed separatists. Ukraine's state gas company claims Russian forces are siphoning off some of that flow. It's telling Russia's state gas company, Gazprom, to use another pipeline that crosses Ukrainian-held territory. Gazprom calls that technically impossible, but the company also insists it will keep up gas shipments to Europe. Some European Union countries rely heavily on Russian energy supplies. They remain split over bringing in any kind of ban. Jessica Gallagher is reporting for us out of Lviv this morning. Jessica, in addition to what we're watching there with the gas and the pipelines, we're tracking some significant new developments in the battle for the Donbass, with Ukraine appearing to be recapturing territory from Russian forces around Kharkiv. What is the latest that you're hearing out of that region today?
Kharkiv has been one of the hardest hit areas in eastern Ukraine, and slowly but surely, Ukraine has been taking areas outside to the north and east of Kharkiv back from the Russians. Kharkiv was essentially the capital of Ukraine during Soviet times, the first capital. It's the second largest city here, and Russia has really been hitting that area hard over the last couple of weeks. But Ukraine has managed to take, as I mentioned earlier, small villages north and east of Kharkiv. It's slow going, as many of the advances in the east have been for Russia against Ukraine. Ukraine has had more of an advantage due to the fact that they've also been able to dig a lot of trenches in the area because it's in the east, and there have been separatists that have been waging war in the Donbass region since 2014. So this is another issue that has been difficult for Russia to face because they expected also to take Kyiv very quickly with a lot more forces than Ukraine has had, but they've really been facing slow but steady pressure from Ukraine, which was a surprise to Western military analysts and also to Ukraine. Now, Russia does have the advantage of weaponry. It is a lot more difficult for Ukraine to get weapons to the east, clearly due to the situation getting supplies from the west in places like Poland. And so that has been slow going for Ukraine, but they have made tiny advances in the region in Kharkiv for about the last 48 hours. Heather?
And Jessica, the battle for Donbass, it has been seen as potentially the decisive one in this war, but there's a new U.S. intelligence assessment that's giving a very different view now. What are we hearing in this?
The head of the U.S. intelligence came out to say that she believes that Russia is not going to stop just at the Donbass, which is essentially Ukraine's industrial heartland, the Luhansk and Donetsk regions. She said she believes that Russia is going to essentially travel across southern Ukraine to Transnistria, which is, a lot of people may remember, an area that Russia, pro-Russian separatists seized in the 90s after the collapse of the Soviet Union. It is part of Moldova, according to Moldova, but Russian separatists have essentially taken over this area. And so what this would create would be a water supply and essentially a land bridge from eastern Ukraine all the way to Transnistria, and also create a water supply for Crimea. And this has been one of the things that Ukraine has consistently said, is that Moscow is not going to stop at Ukraine, that it is going to advance to other places. And this is why countries like Finland and also Sweden are considering joining NATO. So if this does happen, Russia is essentially, this is why Mariupol was so important for Russia to take over, or hopes to take over, is because it would create a land bridge from Crimea to eastern Ukraine. And if we have eastern Ukraine in the Donbass, which Russia is trying to take, with also the route in the south along the coast to Transnistria, which is a breakaway region of Moldova. And Ukraine supports this theory and has been saying this all along since the war began on February 24th, Heather.
Jessica, thank you very much. Jessica Gallagher is in Lviv for us this morning.